We are live. Let's get ready to podcast.
Fire it up.
Welcome back to another live and amplified Indie Fusion podcast. I'm your host, Tom Quiet, and we're back at it again with another amazing podcast. Today, we have a very special guest joining us. We have Jose Champoux. How's it going?
Going good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, excited to have you here.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I feel like it's been a little bit, but then I went back and looked, and it's like it's really not been that long. So it's all been within this year, which I can't believe it's March already, but you know.
Crazy. January took so long, and then February was just gone.
Mm-hmm. Pretty much. That's how it rolls. So you're based out of Nashville now. How's Nashville been treating you?
Been treating me well. You know, not too much snow, so I'm happy for that. And then it's been treating me nice.
Well, coming from Eastern Canada, I'm sure you know how to drive in the snow.
Funny enough, you'd think I don't know how to drive at all. I've never had a driver's license, so okay. I know how to walk in the snow, but
okay. You know how to get around in the snow.
100%, but it only comes once or twice a year here, so that's fair. Nice.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess that's the scary part is because it comes so infrequently, you're not worried about your ability to get around in the snow. You're worried about everybody else's ability to get around.
100%. Yeah. The roads are not treated the same way as they are up in the Northeast. So
fair. So growing up in the Northeast Canada, who introduced you to music? Was that family, friends, mom, dad?
Definitely started with family. My parents have both always loved music, and my dad comes from a musical family and has always been super into music. Though they would never have forced it on us. I think they were kind of always just crossing their fingers that either my brother or I were going to pursue that. And thankfully I did, and they've been so supportive ever since. But my grandfather was a classical pianist. And then my dad just has one of those ears there. He just knows how to play and sing any song once he hears it. So I decided to try and follow that, though I couldn't follow it, but you know, I did my best.
Okay. Doesn't that make you so jealous where it's like somebody just has that innate ability to be like, oh, I know this song, and have you ever heard it before? Nope. Yeah. So
insane. Yeah, no, I wish I had that ability to sight read like that or just to hear things like that, but it took a lot more studying for me. So
oh, for sure. So was it always kind of the goal to get to Nashville, or did that kind of take some journeying in the music industry before you made that decision?
Yeah, that absolutely took some journeying. When I first started kind of paving my path and really thinking that music was going to be my end goal, I was actually planning on shooting for New York. I was really into, you know, musical theater and a lot of that stuff. Had a huge heavy dance background as well. So like I was always in community theaters, doing that in the summer, going to camps in Boston for musical theater. Like that was the main goal. And it actually didn't happen until I went to college, and life just kind of threw me into this songwriting world. And I had always written songs, but they were kind of more for myself. I never really played them out, didn't do any writers rounds and things like that. But life sent me there, and I was like, yeah, I switched my major into songwriting, and I completely changed my direction and was like, once I graduate, it's Tennessee for me.
Fair. Where'd you go to school?
I went to Berklee College of Music.
Okay. Fair.
Was in Boston in the middle of the pandemic, which was super fun because it's cold and isolating. So,
well, you know, I think it was isolating for a lot of people. Maybe not quite as super cold, but you know, it is what it is. Oh, and so, what drew you to Boston? I guess initially was it Berklee? I'm guessing probably.
I mean, it definitely started with Berklee. I'm from Nova Scotia, which is just just northeast of there. And when I was a teenager, the summers, my parents let me go to music camps there. So I spent almost every summer in Boston since the age I was allowed to go to camps. Every year I was at Berklee, and it was just kind of one of those things. I was like, if I got in and I had the ability to go, like that's where I was going to go. I had the rapport there. I knew people, I knew the city. So I knew I was going to go there. And then there's a college that was 3 hours away from my hometown that has like a pathway program with them. So you could do like 2 years there for Canadian tuition money and then go down to Boston. So it made it very easy to be away from home only 3 hours and then going to Boston.
Fair, fair, fair. And what did you originally go to school there for? Was it musical theater or was it?
So technically it was a performance degree, but like music theater was what I was focusing on. And those
Mm,
first couple camps that I went to were music theater intensive. So like it was
mm,
very much in that focus in that realm.
gotcha. And then what was kind of the light switch moment where you were like, nope, we're going singer, songwriter, singing, that thing.
Yeah, I mean, in full transparency, one of our really close family friends passed away that fall, and I was unable to go home and be a part of that service and be there with my friends and my family and be there for that. And I just happened to write a song about it, and there was just something kind of in that moment and in um, that grieving process and not being able to be there that made me really like I need this is the only thing I can do and like this is where I think my life is supposed to go and I think this moment happened for me to change directions here.
Mm, gotcha, gotcha. And so you made that transition, and did you start like recording then, or was that not until you got to Nashville that you started recording? And
That was not until I got to Nashville. I should have started recording there, and it's one of those things I kick myself on, just for the access and the
mm,
facilities there. I really wish I'd taken advantage of it, but in all honesty, I was in my own way and in my own insecurities and thinking that I was this like newer writer that I wasn't like ready to go in. But then it's funny that it's some of the songs that I wrote there that I'm the most proud of and that I am starting to record now. So it was once I got to Nashville here that I started recording.
sure. And I mean, you can't really beat yourself up about that. It's like, yeah, you had the opportunity of like, I don't know if it was like free recording through Berkeley, but I'd imagine it was probably free, right?
Yeah. It was
Yeah.
free, but it was free as long as you were like, with your other students doing
Yeah.
production and things like that. And it was, it's a cool thing, but yeah, I don't regret it too much. Everything is
Mm,
falling into place the way it should.
right. Because it's like, who's to say if you would have recorded it 2 years earlier while you were at Berkeley that it would have ended up the same way, or it would be a song that's like that you're still really proud of, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And half of these songs too, they've gone through some editing and then I've grown so much, I don't regret my timeline. I think it's worked out exactly the way it should for me.
Hmm. For sure, for sure. And so then, um, once you made that transition, how does kind of like playing shows, does that, I'm assuming that probably doesn't come in until like Nashville when you started playing out a little bit, or?
The frequency of it definitely in
Yeah.
Nashville. I would do little shorter cover gigs back home, but I think anyone who's been to Nashville knows that I think the vibe of a cover gig is so much different down here. It's longer. It's
Mm,
you're expected to take the request, do all those things. Whereas like back home, as much as Nova Scotia is a music hub and loves having live music in
mm,
all their bars, it's like I showed up, I did my shift, I got my flat rate. We didn't really do tips, and no one was coming up and asking me, can you do this song? What can you do? It's like, no, I had my set list and I was up there
mm.
and I was performing and they let me do my thing.
Yeah.
So I did some of those a little bit from my teenage years and then the early 20s. But once I got here and that became my full-time job, that's when I
Mm.
really got into all that.
Nice, nice, nice. And so moving to Nashville, I'm sure that was a transition in and of itself because you're used to just going to Boston for the most part, where it's like, oh, hey, it's a little bit of a hike, but not too crazy, right?
Not too crazy. It was like the start of the semester would be the drive with my dad, and it's like a 10.5 hour drive from my hometown, and then going home for Christmas, whatever, it's an hour flight. So it's like
Hmm.
nothing.
Wow. Oh, I
I
mean,
know.
I guess that does try. I was trying to figure out why it would take 10 and a half hours to
Yeah, you got
drive,
to
but
go up and around. Yeah.
yeah, fair, fair, fair. Because, it's funny because I've had a lot of artists from like the Maritimes area, like PEI and Nova Scotia and stuff like, and all within the last couple of weeks. And I'm like, I've learned more about that part of Canada than I've known my entire life. Like, it is crazy.
It's
So,
crazy. And like, yeah, the music scene, it's like, it's huge up there, but it's also so like wrapped up in its own bubble. Like its own little package.
yeah, for sure, for sure. It's one of those things where it's just like, it's isolated, maybe not because it wants to be, but because it has to be kind of.
Yeah. And I think there's like negatives and positives to that. Like obviously negatives in the sense that people want to reach other parts of the world, but there's something so nice that like the communities down there are so supportive, like
Mm.
especially like on the island. The college I went to before Berkeley was on PEI,
Mm.
and like the PEI music industry and PEI music itself, like that whole collective is just so inclusive and so supportive of one another that it's something crazy to be a part of.
Sweet. I'm gonna have to write that down. We've started doing this live podcast thing. We've been looking for fun places and new places to go. And
Oh yeah.
I feel like the first international trip, it'll almost, I feel like logistically it'll probably end up being like the UK, but like as far as like ease, I feel like Canada would be like, hey, we'll get that knocked out real quick. So
Oh yeah, going to somewhere like Cape Breton or Prince Edward Island or
yeah,
right in Halifax. Oh, you'd have so much fun.
right. Well, and it's one of those things. Like I'm a little apprehensive because I feel like there's some unnecessary tension between the U.S. and Canada, politically speaking. But it's just like I'm out of it. I'm
It'll die
good.
down at some point, you know. We'll get back to normal at some point.
Right. We used to be friends, I promise. So
I know, and we'll become friends again.
fair,
This happened in 2016 too. It'll be okay.
fair, fair. So, so kind of looking forward, you got just released a new single, what, about 3 weeks ago, coming up on four
Yeah,
weeks?
yeah, just about 3 weeks ago. Yeah, I think so. So
What's the name of the new song? What's the story? Let's kind of jump into that a little bit.
yeah, just want to know is the song that I just released a couple weeks ago with Savio Productions. And that was written actually kind of in the middle of COVID, and it's evolved a little bit since then, and had some work done to it. But the story was basically of just being back in my hometown, and getting to drive around because really all you could do in the middle of COVID was maybe stay in your house or maybe go for a drive in your car, but you couldn't go see anyone. And I was living at my childhood home with my best friend and my dad. That's who we had in the house. And we went for a drive one day and we passed like an old house that was someone from all those chapters ago. And I was like, oh, like that's like, there's a cool song in that. So I
Yeah.
wrote it, and it wasn't necessarily as deep as missing that person, but passing by the house and those moments being in the hometown. So that's where it kind of came from, and wondering what they're thinking, what they're doing
Mm.
now.
For sure, for sure. And so with this song, since it's kind of been in your back pocket for a little bit, I'm guessing you've played it out a bit, and that's kind of how the evolution came around.
A little bit, yeah. And I used to play it more at home because I was more of a piano player for a long time, and it's definitely more of a keys heavy song. And
Yeah.
down here, just for all the different places I got to go, I'm leaning more on my guitar. So I do play it down here, but yeah, it's definitely come from playing it out and just you know singing lines, and then it's kind of you sing some over and over again. You're like, I found a better way to say that, and it's like I'm still saying what I wanted to say, but it's just coming out cleaner. It's coming out more decisive.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I guess that is the downside about Nashville, especially if you're doing like a lot of Broadway gigs where it's like, oh, I got to bring a keyboard. No, that's not going to work because,
Yeah,
yeah,
as the big walker that I am, yeah, it's
yeah,
it's pretty much mostly guitar gigs for me now.
right, right. Like, I mean, I feel like they probably make like a 55 key keyboard or something, like something that's a little bit smaller, but
They definitely do.
it's one of those things where it's like, nah, just play guitar, you're fine.
I'll be okay. Yeah.
And if the venue's worth anything, they might have a piano there anyway. So
Exactly. If it's something big like that, then I can go back and forth between the guitar and the piano. If they have one, I'll be like, sure, perfect. But I'm not gonna
nice.
take my big old 88 key Yamaha down.
Right? Yeah, no. I knew somebody that used to do that. They'd go gig to gig and they'd just have like they had this big traveling case for their keyboard. And I'm like, that just looks unpleasant to travel with. And she's like, it's mine. I'm gonna travel with it. And I'm like, okay, I'm not my position. So
I respect it. I
yeah.
absolutely respect it. It's just, yeah, like I know how heavy mine is, and I'm like, I can carry it from someone else's car to the door if I have to, but building to building, gig to gig, no, thank you.
Fair. How often are you playing in Nashville right now? Are you doing like the Broadway grind right now or
Pretty much, yeah. I'm actually just off Broadway, which is a little bit nice. It saves just a little bit of the noise. I'm on Second Avenue,
okay.
and I'm playing at a place called Big Jimmy's mostly, or the Stillery. There's one down there on Second Ave, and then there's one up here in Midtown as well. So I
Nice.
play at those a lot. Those are my main spots, and I'm playing about 4 or 5 times a week,
Oh,
depending
sweet.
depending on if I can pick something else up. But yeah, like I'll be down there all weekend.
Nice. So you're not doing the I've heard some of these horror stories about the Broadway grind where people are playing two shows a day, 7 days a week, and I'm like, that just sounds like a terrible time. So
I mean, yeah, thankfully I'm made quite a perfect schedule for myself. There's only like one day that I really do doubles, and it's every
mm,
Saturday I do
yeah.
two gigs right in a row, which is a lot of singing, but
Mm,
that's okay
right.
when you're prepared for it. But yeah, the horror stories I can definitely see, especially like I know usually the singers will get to like even if they have two gigs, they'll get to go to a different venue. But like I have
Mm,
some instrumentalist friends that'll be on that same stage from 10 a.m. to 2 a.m. the following night. Like they just don't move all day. And I'm like, are you
mm,
okay? Like, do you need a hug?
right, right, right. It's just like, how do you know enough music? Like, I mean, I guess you'd probably recycle at some point, but
At some point, yeah. And it's like, I'm sure the people who came in at 10 a.m. probably have the same request that someone comes back in at 6. But it's like,
mhm,
yeah,
right,
it's just so much. And then I'm sure they just get used to it, like having it's almost like their own heads or their own real books. Like they just see the structures of everything and they're like, yep, I know what I'm doing, or I can fake
right,
it.
right, right. Or it's just like, well, this sounds just about right, so we'll go with it.
We'll go with
So,
it. No one in here is going to get mad at us, or if they do, then it's like, sorry, I didn't know the song.
right, right, right. Chances are anybody that's in the bar can't really make out note for note or they're drunk.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And if it's you happen to have a musician in the crowd, then hopefully they're not too mad.
Right, right, right. So where are you kind of at creatively right now? Are you more focused on gigs or like are you writing, recording? Where you kind of at in that vein?
I think I'm kind of like I'm really teetering the line right in the middle because
Hmm.
as much as I want to just be in my apartment writing all day and getting ready to run to the studio, especially with the visa I'm on, the only thing I can do is work
Hmm.
in music industry. So it's like I can't have like a part-time job to kind of get the bills going.
Yeah,
So I'm running downtown to make sure the bills are paid and to save anything to go to a studio because
yeah,
it's not just going to happen. So I'm right in the middle. I'm doing my grinds, and then I come home and I do spend my time writing. I'll sacrifice sleep for that when I need
yeah.
to. But yeah, right now I'm working out some logistics and things, and kind of working out some stuff, visa wise, and then
Hmm.
getting back into the studio hopefully soon. I have one more song like ready to go, and just kind of waiting on looking at the timeline of releasing that and getting back in the studio to do my next project.
Right, 100%. It's just one of those things. Like it's a delicate balance, kind of like you said, where it's like, especially even more for you because you got to worry about a visa situation where it's like if you do something outside the confines of the rules, it's could mean you're out of here, you know?
Exactly. And I'm not looking to mess up with any rules. I'm like, I will fill out every paper you need me to fill out. Just let me
Right.
go sing downtown.
Right. Because it's one of those things where it's like the American immigration, especially when you're like on a visa, they're ruthless. Like they will kick you out for 5 years if you screw
Yeah.
something up. So
Oh, I know. I could like just do a misspelling on a application. They'd be like, this is fraud. And I'll be like, I just have bad penmanship. I'm sorry.
it's a thing. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so do you have you had an opportunity? Obviously, I'm sure you probably played while you were in like Boston and whatnot, but will you go out and play shows or are you only allowed to play in Nashville?
Oh, I can play anywhere right now in the
Okay.
States. Basically, what it is like my shows downtown are kind of like what makes me eligible to stay for the length of the visa. So as long as I
Mhm.
like have someone vouching for me downtown saying, yeah, we're going to keep her here every like Friday for this many months or
Yeah.
whatever, that's what they do. But if I get other gigs while I'm here, I can go other places. So
Mm.
when opportunities have come up, like I'll be out in Arizona Easter weekend, which would be nice at
Nice.
the distillery out there. And if I had a show opportunity up in Boston, I could go back home up there. So
Nice. Whereabouts in Arizona?
it's Goodyear, so it's just like kind of west of Phoenix. It's still like kind of
Mm.
in Phoenix, but the distillery has like three different locations out there now, like in
Mm.
Chandler.
Good.
Yeah, Goodyear is the new one, and then Happy Valley is the other one.
Okay.
So
Yep.
So they have a bunch out there, but this year or this time around, I'm going out to Goodyear. So I haven't been to that location yet. So I'm excited. But
Nice. Is so you're staying busy with the gigs and you write and record when you can?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, just
Nice.
doing it when I can, and that's where the passion lies, and that's where I want to be. So when that time comes and when that's able to happen, those are
Yeah.
the best weeks.
Oh yeah, for sure. Do you have anything like in your back pocket that you're like ready to release, or are you kind of just figuring it all out right now?
I do have one done right now. I'm kind of just waiting to feel out if I'm going to put it in a bigger project or let it live on its own and then start the bigger project. So I'm just kind of feeling out when that one's coming out. But I do have one ready. I got that final master through just a couple weeks ago. So I'm excited about that. But
Nice.
we'll let you know on the timeline once I know.
Fair. You know, it's one of those things where it's like I totally get the thought process of, oh, do we do a bigger project with this? Do we release this as a 5 song EP, like take the first 2 songs and do like an EP, LP, something? But it's also if you don't have the music ready, like that runway becomes like this whole thing. And it's like I think with the industry the way it is right now, it's like if you're not sure, the surest thing is just release singles, you know?
Exactly. And it's like, yeah, it's like the way things are streamlining and like, the way TikTok is making the single just pop off.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to just kind of put that out. But I love this next song, and I'm like, I would love to. I'm obviously looking to make an EP and album at some point,
Yeah.
and I would love to build it around this. But
Mm-hmm.
if it doesn't work out that way, or if I'm like figuring out different studios and like playing around with different producers and things like that, and people don't want to mix work together, then it's gonna come
Mm-hmm.
down to that stuff too. So, and yeah, timing wise to get into the studio, it's like I'd love to jump in and record 10 songs right now too, but my wallet and my calendar can't allow that right now.
Fair. I think that's a lot of people's wallets. I was talking to a friend. We're talking about doing like an or having me record an acoustic album for him, and I was like, I'm just curious because it's been a while since I've looked into the idea of like printing like CDs and do it like actually having physical copies, and just that alone, what the price was absolutely mind-boggling.
It's insane. Like it's insane. The actual, yeah, like physical copies. It's like
Yeah.
no wonder why everyone was relying on having record deals in the 90s and the early 2000s. You
Mhm.
needed a company to pay for that.
Right. It's one of those things where I was just like, oh, that's not cool. And like, that's not even including any like recording fees, which I'm doing. I'm not going to charge them because they're my friends. So it's just like, yeah, let's do it. Want to try a theory that I've had for the last 10 years.
Like
But just like to get the physical copies of stuff, it's like, this is a racket. Like, let's get out of here. So,
I know. It's mind-boggling. And it's like
mhm.
if, as long as like and if you knew you had the audience to pay for it, like get it back, then of course you're gonna invest that in. But if you
Mhm.
don't know if they're coming through, then
Yeah. Well, it's also if you knew that you had a whole run of shows where it's like, oh, I'm playing in front of a new crowd every night. I have a good idea that I could sell this many or at least get a good chunk of these sold. But when you're playing the same like 5 shows every week, it's like, yes, you're not playing in front of the same people. You're playing in front of the same type of people, though, which is almost as bad.
yeah, it's the same thing. And then
Yeah.
especially I mean the Nashville struggle too. It's like half of these people are all tourists and they're having fun for a night, but they're not looking to remember you tomorrow when they find
Yeah.
you downtown. So it's like they're not looking to buy an album while they're out drinking at a bar.
Hmm. Right. Because they're going to lose it and then it's just going to be a whole thing. So.
Exactly.
Right. So outside of music, what do you like to get into? Obviously, I'm assuming you probably don't have a whole lot of free time, but
I mean, yeah, I'm a big reader. I love doing that. I like being outdoors. I go for runs a lot and I love, hiking a trail, going for a walk. I love doing that stuff. But yeah, reading is kind of the biggest thing. It takes up a lot of my free time. I love to just read a classic old fiction and I'm not
nice,
learning anything. I am just going somewhere else and that's what I'm doing.
nice. Do you find like when you're like reading a good book that it impacts your writing at all?
100%, 100%. And I'm big on like I'll like tab my books a lot if I see like a line or like a theme that I really
Mhm.
enjoy. I'll keep those saved just because I like to go back and if I have writer's block and I'm like, who said something that I thought was really cool, and I'll just look at it and sometimes it'll spark something, sometimes it doesn't, but sometimes I just like to go back and find my favorite lines.
Nice. That sounds like that could almost be the idea for an album right there. Like just if you go down like a fairy tale or like
Oh yeah.
some kind of genre and it's just like, oh, that's like a whole theme for an album right there.
It really is. Like I could just do a whole album on just the different tabs of lines of like my favorite books that I have up there.
Mm.
Like
Yeah.
it's cool.
It's a the idea of where you pull inspiration from is really cool. Just kind of like talking from musician to musician where like this inspiration comes from because I feel like living life is one way to do it, but if you're stuck in like the day-to-day grind of having a day job or like things get very repetitive, I feel like that is very hard. Like the inspiration is hard to find, but just kind of reading, it's interesting how that impacts everything. So,
Absolutely. Yeah. It's almost like, living through a different experience that way instead. Because, yeah, you're right. Like, it's like, no, I'm not going and doing all these crazy things, which I wish I could too. Like, I love that. And I love, the nonfiction songwriters that get to just tell the stories that they've lived. But it's something to be said about just finding something in a book as well to give you some
nice.
inspiration.
Yeah. So is the obviously besides your traditional like Nashville gigs, is the Arizona shows over Easter weekend, is that like your next like big shows?
Yeah, that's the next big one right now. I'm in the works with some stuff back home as well, working on all that stuff. I'll be heading to Florida soon as well, so like
Nice.
doing some things out there. But yeah, Arizona's the next like big one. Yeah,
Nice.
for April.
Yeah.
So yeah,
We'll have to get you to come down to Texas. I think your music would do really well here.
I
So,
would love to. I would love to. I've only been to Houston once, and I'm like, it's big enough. I need to go other places.
right. I often tell people when they want to come to Texas to fly into Dallas and just drive from or get from Dallas to San Antonio, whether
Yeah,
driving, bus, whatever it is,
figure it out.
yeah.
Travel.
It it's really cool. Like it's a really easy travel, but you can hit many good music scenes there.
I
So,
would absolutely love to. Yeah. I think Texas is a spot I'd love to go through and get to hit some of those like major cities and even like the smaller towns with the music scenes. I'd love to
mm,
just visit it because it's big enough that it's like it's its own bunch of different little pockets of stuff.
oh yeah. Oh yeah. Just like one thing I told somebody once was just look up the top 50 barbecue spots in Texas and just hit all those little towns because they're always like the little mom and pop towns. And just hit those places up and you'll be good. So,
Oh, perfect. Okay. I do need to just go and stop at different barbecue spots. I need some of that in my life. So might
right,
as
right. Yeah. So how often do you get to go back home? Like
well.
recently, yeah.
I mean, since I've been here, been going back twice a year
Mm.
pretty steadily. I go home at like Christmas time, and then there's a big music festival in PEI that I go home for in the summer every year. Anyway, me and my family have been going every year for a long time. And then my first year that I was here, that ended up being the time I had to renew my visa anyway. So I was
Yeah.
like, well, I've just made it a thing. It's like I go home in December and I go home in July.
Nice. And I'm guessing July is when you gotta do the visa thing.
Yeah, I've been kind of like lucky enough that it's been like every year it's been on the year that it's like it's when I'm going home anyway. I'll just
Mm.
do it and then hopefully it's done by the time I'm going and then I'm all set by the time I'm coming back across the border. It's like, yes, it looks like this visa's ending in 2 weeks, but don't worry, I have another one.
Right. Right,
So,
right.
yeah.
Hey, that's cool. I'm glad you got like a system, it seems like kind of worked out and it's working out really well for you. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's been
yeah.
working out really nice. It's all falling into place at the right time.
Nice. So, kind of looking forward for the rest of 2025, you got some shows in the works, and what's kind of the plans as you look at the rest of 2025? Is it just kind of staying with the grind, the Nashville grind, and then just booking out shows, or like what do you see? What would be like the perfect rest of 2025 for you?
I mean, the rest of 2025, like the big thing is, yeah, like I'm gonna do some of those shows around Yeah, I have some shows that I'm planning on going home. Oh, and I have some shows in Michigan in May, so that's like we're gonna go up there. Those are the bigger ones, the bigger things. But my plan kind of for the summer is hopefully, early summer, get back in the studio, figure out whether this song is going to be a part of a bigger project or it's gonna come out and be its thing. And if it's gonna be out and be its thing, then I'm still gonna start working on this bigger project, and hopefully by the fall I have an EP or an album, the songs, depending on if we
Yeah.
decide we want to do all of them or just some of them, but they're all there, they're all ready, and I'm excited about it. But
Nice. And as you're kind of going through that process, do you feel like you have enough music at the ready right now to do a full album if that's what you end up wanting to do, or do you think you'll have to like write some stuff?
I mean, I definitely have the music done if I want to do that. It just depends on which songs I want to put in, and then
Mm.
I know I'll find myself writing as the year goes on anyway, and if I happen to create something I like more than something else, then it will take its spot as long as it feels cohesive to the project. Because
Right.
for this first one, I don't think it's necessarily going to be like any type of concept album or something like that. It needs to all focus on like one thing and be special like that. I just want my best work to be my first, body
Right.
of work for the
Right.
time. Yeah.
So you feel like the music that you're putting out right now like really or authentically represents who you are?
I think it is, and I think it's like I'm starting to grow more comfortable in like articulating what I want in the studio, which is really nice. I'm so happy with the work that was done on my first two songs that are out, and I can't thank Savio Productions enough for it. Like they were amazing to work with. They were so fantastic with everything timely and stuff like that. It was a lovely experience, but I'm getting to, understanding what I want to hear more and like what I maybe accepted the first time around. Like I would have
Mm.
like asked for something different this time around, and that's something I get to learn with myself. So I think it was authentic for the time that I recorded it, and I'm still very proud of it, but I'm excited to see how I can change my approach to the recording process as it comes forward. So
Right. Now, did you have like production classes while you were at Berkeley that kind of helped you prepare for your time in studio, or was it all just like singing, songwriting, and that focus?
I had a couple production classes, and I sometimes wish I had taken more, but I had a few that at least I knew like some of like, the vocabulary. I was able to ask somewhat for what I wanted in the studio. But I think not knowing as much as I like wish I did kind of
Mhm.
held me back or made me insecure about asking like for what I wanted or knowing exactly what it was. So some vocabulary had helped out, and I did get some of it, but definitely not as much as I wanted. And that's on me for not signing up for them, because I wanted to be in the creative classes and I wanted to be more focused on like the lyric writing and in
Mhm.
the ensembles and getting to perform with that stuff. So that's where I
Right.
shifted my focus.
Gotcha. I ask because, I feel like it's really good for musicians to kind of have at least a baseline knowledge of production because, like you said, it helps communicate with like your producers, engineers, and like whoever's in there with the recording process. So,
Absolutely. And I think, yeah, like the one thing that I did as my mistake is I picked the classes for a DAW that I was thought that was the easiest to me. And it's not necessarily the like standard that people use here. So it's like I have all
yeah.
this vocabulary for like Logic, and then everyone's over here and like Ableton like Pro
Right.
Tools. And I'm like, okay, cool. I can't even ask you for this anymore.
Sure. Okay. How did you land on Logic? Was that just what you thought people were using, or what is?
No, it was just more like it was one of the options. It was and when you're at Berkeley, which is kind of nice because their tuition is outrageous, they do give it to you for free.
Hmm.
And I was like, cool, I have Logic for free
Hmm.
here. I might as well use it. It's on my laptop. I don't have to
Right.
download anything else. I don't need any adding
Yeah.
like iLock for Pro Tools and stuff like that. So I was like, cool, I will just do this and follow this track, and then once I'm done with my production classes, I can get focused back on my lyric writing ones.
Right. 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 So you just kind of got Logic for free, and but I'm sure there's probably some stuff that translates, right? C-
There definitely is. It's just like I think my ability to like even see it in the studio, just the way it looks on the screen and like
Mhm.
the different shortcuts, it's like I didn't know what I was like 100% gonna be like, with like different different condensers, different things like that. Like I just hadn't seen before, and they're like, "Oh no, I have all these plugins," and I'm like, "Oh, okay, well, I don't know what that does."
Right, right, right. And I mean, that's kind of the hard thing with my co-host and I. So we use two completely different DAWs, and it's mainly because I have Adobe because I do a lot of video production. So I use Audition because it's there. I'm not going to pay for a second audio thing,
Yeah,
and he uses Pro Tools. So it's like this weird like crossover that just doesn't always work, but we
yeah.
make it work. So.
Make it work. Yeah, it's fine. But yeah, it is one of those things. Yeah, like the different file sharing too. It's just like I don't know where we're at.
Right, right, right. So, looking forward, I just want to thank you so much for joining us here. If anybody wants to check out your music, shows, social media, stuff like that, where's the best place to find you?
Best place you can find me, everything is at Jose Shampoo. I have my name. Nobody else decided to take it. So it's Jose with an extra E, and then last name is CHAMP, the word champ, then
Hmm.
OUX. Everything is just first name, last name.
Right, right, right. I was watching an interview that you had on, I think it was maybe like YouTube or something, and they were really infatuated with the fact that you were from Canada. And I was just like, get used to it because Canada is coming to Nashville. There is a whole bunch of you.
Oh yeah, we are all down here, and we've been down here for a while. They've just
Oh,
been hiding in the publishing deals, but
right,
yeah, no, we're all coming down, and yeah, we're here.
right, right. Especially Nova Scotia. I don't know what's going on there. I don't know. Like, you were literally in the last month. I want to say you are the seventh or eighth musician that I've had from the Maritime area up there. So,
There's something in the water out there. I don't know what it is either, but I grew up on all those writers' rounds were classic things back home for us as well. So it feels a lot like home down here a lot of the time.
right. It's almost like somebody from Nashville moved up there. It was just like, hey, this is how we do it in Nashville. So,
Literally, like they took it there. They brought it over like from the Cayleys in Ireland, and they were like, "All right, we're just gonna share this here."
right. I feel it. I feel it. But one thing that I want to do here before we wrap up is I like to pass on advice to the younger musicians.
Please.
So, from your perspective, what is something that you learned coming up in the industry that you would like to pass on to the younger musicians?
I think the two biggest things that I did was just go for it, trust yourself. You don't feel ready, doesn't matter, just try. Because if you are or you're not, like you're gonna figure it out on the spot there. So just say yes when the opportunity arises and go for it. And then the second thing, literally be nice to everyone you know, even if they're terrible to you. You never know who someone's going to be later. You never know who you're going to be later. And it costs nothing to just be kind.
Right. I need to remember that one a little bit more. I have a tendency to blow up bridges from time to time. Not literally, NSA, if you're listening. Not literally. I mean that figuratively. Okay. Nope. No red dots. Okay, we're
No,
cool.
no red dots. You're okay. You're okay. I don't see any targets on you.
Sweet. Oh man. Sorry. I'm glad you laughed at that one. Some people get offended by that joke,
No.
um, but no, I really do appreciate you taking the time to sit down and chat.
Well, thank
It's
you
an
for having me.
absolute, yeah, absolutely. And we'll definitely have to do it again. We'll reconnect as we get closer to like whether it's a single EP, whatever it is. So
Yeah, 100%. I'll let you know when I'm announcing all my things so we can talk
nice,
about it.
awesome, awesome. But once again, thank you everybody for tuning in, and we will catch you all later.